Hey everyone, welcome back to Sixth Sense Snakes. I'm Nathan. Thanks for coming back to the snake pit with me. Before you get too far into this video, if you could do us a favor, like the video. I know you haven't seen it yet. I'm trusting you're going to like it. You're here. Hopefully you like this content. Subscribe to the channel. We're hoping to grow this. We got some giveaways coming when we reach certain thresholds. And share this with all your friends. You know, if you see this, as soon as you see this, if you like it and you share it, comment on the video, YouTube starts spreading that. That helps this go viral. That helps us in our mission to educate people about the benefits of snake owning, especially for children and adults who have sensory issues. That's really our purpose here. And we had an interesting week on that front. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Before I do, head on over to Patreon, follow along, subscribe. You can join at the free tier. That really helps us know that we're building a community, gets the conversation going. You'll get a lot more out of it if you join the conversation over there. I was with my daughter a lot this week. I was meeting with some therapists, occupational therapists, and we had a lot of conversations in that setting about the uses and the attributes of snakes and how children and adults with sensory issues in particular could really benefit from handling snakes. And one of the interesting conversations turned to the fact that this occupational therapist had mentioned that she wasn't afraid of snakes. She went into depth about the science behind why, especially children with sensory issues, might really gravitate towards snakes. The snakes putting pressure on the pressure points that felt really good. She mentioned the texture of the snakes, things that we've pointed out and we've talked about on the channel before, things that I've asked my daughter Adeline about before on the channel. And one of the things that she mentioned was that children aren't born with a natural fear of snakes. Some people disagree, but I think a lot of people in the snake community have thought about this and have encountered people who have suggested we are born with an innate fear of snakes. In my experience with children, I don't think that's true. I've seen a lot of children gravitate towards snakes. And in fact, most of my friends' children who find out that we have snakes, their first response is, "That's so cool. I want to hold the snakes. I want to see the snakes." And so I think that a fear of snakes is a culturally conditioned thing. I think it's valuable. So let me say that up front. I think it is valuable to have a healthy respect for snakes, a distrust, a doubt of snakes that you find in the wild. Most of us aren't trained to know the difference between a venomous and a non-venomous snake. We don't understand the differences between constrictor snakes and venomous snakes often. And so a healthy fear is good. I think it's developed in our culture because it helps keep us alive. I know that cultural evolution happens for sure, and I think this is a culturally evolutionary advantage that we've had to develop a healthy distrust, even fear of wild snakes, because we don't know what harm they could befall us. But I also think, not for every person, but for most people, that this fear of snakes could easily be overcome. Now, it might take a little bit of effort, it might take a little bit of work, but I do think that a fear of snakes could be overcome fairly simply. My wife was afraid of snakes for a very long time. When we got married, she said, "There's no way we're ever going to have snakes." Over the years, I've had a lot of conversations with her. I've tried to convince her many times. Well, now we have a lot of snakes. She's great with them. She can go in and she can clean their enclosures with them in it. She can hold them. She can pick them up. She can handle most of them very easily. Recently, she had a snake go around her neck for the first time, which she thought she would never have happen, but there's one snake that she's really bonded with, which sounds strange to say to people who don't like snakes or are afraid of snakes. It would have been strange for her to believe could happen before we started keeping snakes. But she's bonded with this particular snake, Heinz. Heinz goes around her neck now. We had another snake, Narcissa, our son's snake, just laying in bed, and Narcissa came out and crawled all over us and really got some good interaction time. We've got other snakes that are just the same way. And for the most part, my wife has gotten very comfortable with the majority of our snakes, to the point where today she went to the FedEx hub and she received a shipment of 3 snakes that we got in, and she was able to bring them home, unpackage them, and get them settled in the drawers behind me today, all by herself. I wasn't home, I wasn't around. If she got in trouble, I wasn't here to help, but she didn't. She did a great job. She's done this a few times already, and today she got 3 rather large, almost breedable female snakes, 1,000 grams, give or take. You can overcome a fear of snakes. I've seen it in my wife, but when we started this journey, my mother was accepting but reticent to come and see the snakes. But she's been a little bit more curious and more curious about it as time's gone on. She definitely has a favorite snake, Happy. our piebald snake. We got her as a rescue, and she had some scale rot. She was dehydrated. She was underweight. It didn't look like she was eating well. And where she was, they did not have the means to take care of her. She was received by a store. She was probably given to them way too young, way too early. But we have fed her and nurtured her. We soaked her. We got the scale rot off this last shed. It finally all came off. And she's doing fabulously. But that's my mother's favorite snake. We call her Happy because she's got a smiley face on her back, which you'll see in the pictures. And today, for the first time, my mother saw me carrying Happy downstairs, and she came over to me and she said that she really wanted to hold Happy. This was the first time. That's a huge step. But it didn't start with me handing her a snake and saying, "Here, hold this." She joined me in a store one time when I was picking up a snake, and she was just comfortable being around it with me holding it, even though it was a very tiny snake. And then she would come into our room where we keep the snakes, and she would see us interact with them and remarked on how comfortable I was and my wife Amanda was, our son Cade was, our children were holding them. Eventually she got comfortable reaching out and just touching them. And then all of a sudden, over the last couple of days, she's brought our youngest son, our 4-year-old Colt, upstairs and opened up Happy's enclosure just to take a look at Happy and see Happy and pet her while we were out, and all of this on her own. And so she's taken steps to get comfortable. And a lot of it was just exposure, just being around it, seeing people handle snakes, seeing people being comfortable, and realizing, especially with such a small snake, a beautiful looking snake, just being around them and watching us handle them, she realized it's not going to bite. If it did, it's not going to hurt. It's quite pleasant. She's seen all of our family hold snakes. Even our youngest 2-year-old daughter, Lexi, has held snakes around her. And she's noticed that it's not difficult. It's not scary for most of us to interact with these creatures that are very friendly. And so today she held Happy, which everybody has already started calling her snake long before today. And that's the one that she always wants to come up and see and interact with anyway. And so she finally held Happy. And I think for a lot of people who have a fear of snakes, and I talked to one of my best friends in the entire world this week, and he told me that he's deathly afraid of snakes. He's not coming to visit us because we have all these snakes. And I said, I think if you came to stay for long enough that I could change your mind. I wouldn't jump into it by handing him our 9.5-pound girl, Nagini, but I wouldn't start out by handing them those snakes, even though they're the gentlest, they're the nicest, they're the least likely to bite. People often gravitate towards starting with smaller snakes. My mother overcame it by exposure. I think other people could overcome it with exposure, with proper education. There's a lot of videos on the internet you could watch where people have overcome their fear of snakes just by being around that, being exposed, being educated. And I really do think that that's the key. And I believe so strongly in that because I know how beneficial snakes and snake handling can be for people who have sensory issues. And we're very passionate about helping people overcome their fears. And I hope to have in a few weeks' time anyway, someone on the channel who has told me they're a little bit afraid of snakes, I don't know any more than that, to interact with our snakes on camera. And we'll see how that goes. And we'll see how comfortable they get and how quickly. And we'll play this all out on camera, and so that you can follow along and check it out for yourself. So if you're watching this and you're afraid of snakes, I am glad you're here, because overcoming your fear of snakes is only possible if you expose yourself to people talking about them well, who handle them well, and who talk about the benefits of snakes and can show you it's possible. And so it's been a great week here. You can see that we've redesigned the snake pit a little bit. We've laid it out in a much more efficient manner so that we can take care of all of our snakes. As of tomorrow, and this is the first time on this channel that we're going to have told you how many snakes we have. As of tomorrow, we are going to have 29 snakes in the snake pit. And a lot of those are working hard at making babies. We've got a few locked up right now. So we're hoping in a year's time to have many, many more, and to have many great snakes to share with you if you're interested in that. But in order to follow along and to have access to the first accounts of any baby snakes that we might have, any egg laying, any pipping that we might have after that, you're going to want to go on over to Patreon. We do post stuff there first, before it comes onto the YouTube channel. And there's some exclusive behind the scenes stuff that only gets posted over there. So head on over there, check that out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like this video. If you want to learn more, comment down here below the video on, what's your experience with snakes? Are you afraid of snakes? Are you working to overcome your fear of snakes? Or like us, do you just have a ton of snakes and you just absorb and take in as much content about snakes as possible? Let us know. Until next time on this channel, I'm Nathan for 6th Sense Snakes. I love you all very much. We'll see you next time.